Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Dhena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. We're continuing our reading of the Srimad Bhagavatam. We're on the 5th canto. We've reached chapter 5, the Lord Rishabhadev's teachings. We're taking up at text number 27. The true activity of the sense organs, mind, sight, words, and all the knowledge gathering and working senses is to engage fully in my service. Unless his senses are thus engaged, a living entity cannot think of getting out of the great entanglement of material existence, which is exactly like Yamaraja's stringent rope. Purport, as stated in the Narada Pancharatra, Sarvopariva nirbhuktam tatpratvena nirbalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhaktiruchate. This is the conclusion of bhakti. All the time, Lord Rishabhadeva has been stressing devotional service, and now he is concluding by saying that all the senses should be engaged in the Lord's service. There are 5 senses by which we gather knowledge and 5 senses with which we work. These 10 senses and the mind should be fully engaged in the Lord's service. Without engaging them in this way, one cannot get out of the clutches of Maya. May I have that red iPod, please? Inconvenience is regretted. Thank you. Text number 28. All right? You can sit up in the bolster if you want. Shukadev Goswami said, "Thus the great well-wisher of everyone, the Supreme Lord Rishabhadeva, instructed his own sons. Although they were perfectly educated and cultured, he instructed them just to set an example of how a father should instruct his sons before retiring from family life. Sannyasis who are no longer bound by fruitive activity and who have taken to devotional service after their material desires have been vanquished also learn by these instructions. Lord Rishabhadeva instructed his 100 sons, of whom the eldest, Bharati, was a very advanced devotee and a follower of Vaishnavas. In order to rule the whole world, the Lord enthroned his eldest son on the royal seat. Thereafter, although still at home, Lord Rishabhadeva lived like a madman, naked and with disheveled hair. Then the Lord took the sacrificial fire within himself, and he left Brahmavarta to tour the whole world." Did you get it? Here. Purport. Actually, the instructions given to Rishabhadeva's sons were not exactly meant for his sons because they were already educated and highly advanced in knowledge. Rather, these instructions were meant for sannyasis who intend to become advanced devotees. Sannyasis must abide by Lord Rishabhadeva's instructions while on the path of devotional service. Lord Rishabhadeva retired from family life and lived like a naked madman, even while still with his family. 29. After accepting the features of Avadhuta, a great saintly person without material cares, Lord Rishabhadeva passed through human society like a blind, deaf and dumb man, an idle stone, a ghost, or a madman. Although people called him such names, he remained silent and did not speak to anyone. Purport. The word Avadhuta refers to one who does not care for social conventions, particularly the varnashrama dharma. However, such a person may be situated fully within himself and be satisfied with the Supreme Personality of Godhead on whom he meditates. In other words, one who has surpassed the rules and regulations of varnashrama dharma is called Avadhuta. Such a person has already surpassed the clutches of Maya and he lives completely separate and independent. Text 30. Rishabhadeva began to tour through cities, villages, mines, countrysides, valleys, gardens, military camps, cow pens, the homes of cowherd men, transient hotels, hills, forests, and hermitages. Wherever he traveled, all bad elements surrounded him, just as flies surround the body of an elephant coming from a forest. He was always being threatened, beaten, urinated upon, and spat upon. Sometimes people threw stones, stool, and dust at him, and sometimes people passed foul air before him. Thus people called him many bad names and gave him a great deal of trouble. But he did not care about this, for he understood that the body is simply meant for such an end. He was situated on the spiritual platform, and being in his spiritual glory, he did not care for all these material insults. In other words, he completely understood that matter and spirit are separate, and he had no bodily conception. Thus, without being angry at anyone, he walked through the whole world alone. Purport: Narottam Das Thakur says, Deha smriti nahi jar, shankshara bandhana kahantar. When a person fully realizes that the material body and world are temporary, he is not concerned with pain and pleasures of the body. As Sri Krishna advises in Bhagavad Gita 2.14, Matra sparshashtu kaunteya shitoshna sukhatu katha agama painu nityas tamstatikshashva bharata. O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress, and their disappearance in due course, are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O Sayana Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. As far as Rishabhadeva is concerned, it has already been explained. Idam shariram mama durvibhavyam. He did not at all possess a material body, and therefore he was tolerant of all the trouble offered to him by the bad elements in society. Consequently, he could tolerate people's throwing stool and dust upon him and beating him. His body was transcendental and consequently did not at all suffer pain. He was always situated in his spiritual bliss. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 1861, Ishvarak sarvabhutanam hrideshar junatishtati ramayan sarvabhutani yantrarutani mayaya. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. Since the Lord is situated in everyone's heart, he is in the heart of the hogs and dogs also. If hogs and dogs in their material bodies live in filthy places, one should not think that the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his Paramatma feature also lives in a filthy place. Although Lord Rishabhadeva was maltreated by the bad elements of the world, he was not at all affected. Therefore it is stated here, Swamahima avasthanina. He was situated in his own glory. He was never saddened due to being insulted by the many ways described above.
Text 31. Lord Rishabhadeva's hands and feet, his chest, his very long arms, his shoulders, his face, and every part of his body were all very delicate and symmetrically proportioned. His mouth was beautifully decorated with his natural smile, and he appeared all the more lovely with his reddish eyes, spread wide like the petals of a newly grown lotus flower covered with dew in the early morning. The irises of his eyes were so pleasing that they removed all the troubles of everyone who saw him. His forehead, ears, neck, nose, and all his other features were very beautiful. His gentle smile always made his face beautiful, so much so that he even attracted the hearts of married women. It was as though they had been pierced by arrows of Cupid. About his head was an abundance of curly, matted brown hair. His hair was disheveled because his body was dirty and not taken care of. He appeared as if he were haunted by a ghost. Purport. Although Lord Rishabhadev's body was very much neglected, his transcendental features were so attractive that even married women were attracted to him. His beauty and dirtiness combined to make his beautiful body appear as though it were haunted by a ghost. Text 32. When Lord Rishabhadev saw that the general populace was very antagonistic to his execution of mystic yoga, he accepted the behavior of a python in order to counteract their opposition. Thus he stayed in one place and lay down. While lying down, he ate and drank, and he passed stool and urine and rolled in it. Indeed, he smeared his whole body with his own stool and urine so that opposing elements might not come and disturb him. Purport. According to one's destiny, one enjoys allotted happiness and distress, even though one keeps himself in one place. This is the injunction of the Shastras. When one is spiritually situated, he may stay in one place and all his necessities will be supplied by the arrangement of the Supreme Controller. Unless one is a preacher, there is no need to travel all over the world. A person can stay in one place and execute devotional service suitably according to time and circumstance. When Rishabhadev saw that he was simply being disturbed by traveling throughout the world, he decided to lie down in one place like a python. Thus he ate, drank, and he passed stool and urine and smeared his body with them so that people would not disturb him. Text 33. Because Lord Rishabhadev remained in that condition, the public did not disturb him. But no bad aroma emanated from his stool and urine. Quite the contrary. His stool and urine were so aromatic that they filled 80 miles of the countryside with a pleasant fragrance. Purport. From this we can certainly assume that Lord Rishabhadev was transcendentally blissful. His stool and urine were so completely different from material stool and urine that they were aromatic. Even in the material world, cow dung is accepted as purified and antiseptic. A person can keep stacks of cow dung in one place and it will not create a bad odor to disturb anyone. We can take it for granted that in the spiritual world, stool and urine are also pleasantly scented. Indeed, the entire atmosphere became very pleasant due to Lord Rishabhadev's stool and urine. In this way, Lord Rishabhadev followed the behavior of cows, deer, and crows. Sometimes he moved or walked, and sometimes he sat down in one place. Sometimes he lay down, behaving exactly like cows, deer, and crows. In that way he ate, drank, passed stool and urine, and cheated the public in this way. Purport. Being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Rishabhadev possessed a transcendental spiritual body. Since the general public could not appreciate his behavior and mystic yoga practice, they began to disturb him. To cheat them, he behaved like crows, cows, and deer. 35. O King Parikshit, just to show all the yogis the mystic process, Lord Rishabhadeva, the plenary expansion of Lord Krishna, performed wonderful activities. Actually, he was the master of liberation and was fully absorbed in transcendental bliss, which increased 1,000-fold. Lord Krishna, Vasudeva, the son of Vasudeva, is the original source of Lord Rishabhadeva. There is no difference in their constitution, and consequently Lord Rishabhadeva awakened the loving symptoms of crying, laughing, and shivering. He was always absorbed in transcendental love. Due to this, all mystic powers automatically approached him, such as the ability to travel in outer space at the speed of mind, to appear and disappear, to enter the bodies of others, and to see things far, far away. Although he could do all this, he did not exercise these powers. Purport. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said, Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Atayeva Shanta Mukta Mukti Siddhikami Sakalaya Shanta. The word Shanta means completely peaceful. Unless all one's desires are fulfilled, one cannot be peaceful. Everyone is trying to fulfill his aspirations and desires, be they material or spiritual. Those in the material world are ashanta, without peace, because they have so many desires to fulfill. The pure devotee, however, is without desire. Anya bila shita shunya. A pure devotee is completely free from all kinds of material desire. Karmis, on the other hand, are simply full of desires because they try to enjoy sense gratification. They are not peaceful in this life nor in the next, during the past, present, or future. Similarly, jnanis are always aspiring after liberation and trying to become one with the Supreme. Yogis are aspiring after many siddhis, powers, anima, lagima, prapti, etc. However, a devotee is not at all interested in these things because he is fully dependent on the mercy of Krishna. Krishna is Yogeshwara, the possessor of all mystic powers, siddhis, and he is Atma Rama, fully self-satisfied. The yoga siddhis are described in this verse. One can fly in outer space without the aid of a machine, and he can travel at the speed of mind. This means that as soon as a yogi desires to go somewhere within this universe, or even beyond this universe, he can do so immediately. One cannot estimate the speed of mind, for within a second, the mind can go many millions of miles. Sometimes yogis enter into the bodies of other people and act as they desire when their bodies are not working properly. When the body becomes old, a perfect yogi can find a young, able body. Giving up his old body, the yogi can enter into the young body and act as he pleases. Being a plenary expansion of Lord Vasudeva, Lord Rishabhadeva possessed all these mystic yoga powers, but he was satisfied with his devotional love of Krishna, which was evinced by his ecstatic symptoms, such as crying, laughing, and shivering. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 5th canto, 5th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Lord Rishabhadeva's Teachings to His Sons.
Hari Hari Om.
Chapter 6, the activities of Lord Rishabhadeva. King Parikshit asked Shukadeva Goswami, "My dear Lord, for those who are completely pure in heart, knowledge is detained by the practice of bhakti yoga, and attachment for fruitive activity is completely burned to ashes. For such people, the powers of mystic yoga automatically arise. They do not cause distress. Why then did Rishabhadeva neglect them?" Purport: a pure devotee is constantly engaged in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Whatever is necessary for the discharge of devotional service is automatically attained, though it may appear to be the result of mystic yoga power. Sometimes a yogi displays a little yogic power by manufacturing gold. A little quantity of gold captivates foolish people, and thus the yogi gets so many followers who are willing to accept such a tiny person as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such a yogi may also advertise himself as Bhagavan. However, a devotee does not have to exhibit such magical wonders. Without practicing the mystic yoga process, he achieves even greater opulence all over the world. Under the circumstances, Lord Rishabhadeva refused to manifest mystic yogic perfections. And Maharaj Parikshit asked why he did not accept them, since for a devotee they are not at all disturbing. A devotee is never distressed or satisfied by material opulence. His concern is how to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If by the grace of the Supreme Lord a devotee achieves extraordinary opulence, He utilizes the opportunity for the Lord's service. He is not disturbed by the opulence. 2. Srila Shukadev Goswami replied, "My dear king, you have spoken correctly. However, after capturing animals, a cunning hunter does not put faith in them, for they might run away. Similarly, those who are advanced in spiritual life do not put faith in the mind. Indeed, they always remain vigilant and watch the mind's action." Purport. In Bhagavad Gita 18.5, Lord Krishna says, "Yajnadana tapa karma natyajam karyameva tat yajnodanam tapaschaiva pavanani manushanam." Acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance are not to be given up, but should be performed. Indeed, sacrifice, charity, and penance purify even the great souls. Even one who has renounced the world and has taken sannyas should not renounce chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Renunciation does not mean that one has to renounce Sankirtan Yajna. Similarly, one should not renounce charity or tapasya. The yoga system for control of the mind and senses must be strictly followed. Lord Rishabhadeva showed how severe types of tapasya could be performed, and he set an example for all others. 3.
Those is text 2 there?
Yes, it is. All the learned scholars have given their opinions. The mind is by nature very restless, and one should not make friends with it. If we place full confidence in the mind, it may cheat us at any moment. Even Lord Shiva became agitated upon seeing the Mohini form of Lord Krishna, and Saubhari Muni also fell down from the mature stage of yogic perfection. Purport. The first business of one trying to advance in spiritual life is to control the mind and senses. As Sri Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 15.7, "Mamaivamsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatanaha manakshastan indriyani prakritistani karshati." Although the living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord and are therefore in a transcendental position, they are still suffering in this material world and struggling for existence due to the mind and the senses. To get out of this false struggle for existence and become happy in the material world, one has to control the mind and senses and be detached from material conditions. One should never neglect austerities and penances. One should always perform them. Lord Rishabhadev personally showed us how to do this. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 9.19.17, it is specifically stated, "Matra swasha duhitra va navaviktasano bhavet balavan indriya gramo vidvamsam abhikarshati." A grahastha, vanaprastha, sannyasi, and brahmachari should be very careful when associating with women. One is forbidden to sit down in a solitary place, even with one's mother, sister, or daughter. In our Krishna consciousness movement, it has been very difficult to disassociate ourselves from women in our society, especially in Western countries. We are therefore sometimes criticized, but nonetheless we are trying to give everyone a chance to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and thus advance spiritually. If we stick to the principle of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra offenselessly, then by the grace of Srila Haridas Thakur, we may be saved from the allurement of women. However, if we are not very strict in chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, we may at any time fall victim to women. 4. An unchaste woman is very easily carried away by paramours, and it sometimes happens that her husband is violently killed by her paramours. If the yogi gives his mind a chance and does not restrain it, his mind will give facility to enemies like lust, anger, and greed, and they will doubtlessly kill the yogi.
No.
Purport. In this verse, the word punchali refers to a woman who is easily carried away by men. Such a woman is never to be trusted. Unfortunately, in the present age, women are never controlled. According to the directions of the Shastras, women are never to be given freedom. When a child, a woman must be strictly controlled by her father. When she is young, she must be strictly controlled by her husband. And when she is old, she must be controlled by her elderly sons. If she is given independence and allowed to mingle unrestrictedly with men, she will be spoiled. A spoiled woman, being manipulated by paramours, might even kill her husband. This example is given here because a yogi desiring to get free from material conditions must always keep his mind under control. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to say that in the morning our first business should be to beat the mind with shoes 100 times, and before going to bed to beat the mind 100 times with a broomstick. In this way, one's mind can be kept under control. An uncontrolled mind and an unchaste wife are the same. An unchaste wife can kill her husband at any time, and an uncontrolled mind, followed by lust, anger, greed, madness, envy, and illusion, can certainly kill the yogi. When the yogi is controlled by the mind, he falls down into the mature condition. One should be very careful of the mind, just as a husband should be careful of an unchaste wife. 5. The mind is the root cause of lust, anger, pride, greed, lamentation, illusion, and fear. Combined, these constitute bondage to fruit of activity. What learned man would put faith in the mind? Purport: the mind is the original cause of material bondage. It is followed by many enemies, such as anger, pride, greed, lamentation, illusion, and fear. The best way to control the mind is to engage it in Krishna consciousness. Savai manak Krishna padara vindayo. Since the followers of the mind bring about material bondage, we should be very careful not to trust the mind. I'm sorry. It must say, since the followers of the mind bring about material bondage, we should be very careful not to trust the mind.
In a sense, before it's always
Yes.
Krishna consciousness.
Okay. It is followed by many enemies, such as anger, pride, greed, lamentation, illusion, and fear. The best way to control the mind is to engage it always in Krishna consciousness.
Text 6. Lord Rishabhadev was the head of all kings and emperors within this universe. But assuming the dress and language of an avaduta, he acted as if dull and materially bound. Consequently, no one could observe his divine opulence. He adopted this behavior just to teach yogis how to give up the body. Nonetheless, he maintained his original position as a plenary expansion of Lord Vasudeva, Krishna. Remaining always in that state, remaining always in that state, he gave up his pastimes as Lord Rishabhadeva within the material world. If, following in the footsteps of Lord Rishabhadeva, one can give up his subtle body, there is no chance that one will accept a material body again. Purport: as Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo viditattvataha chakva deham gunarjanma naitimam iti sorjuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. This is possible simply by keeping oneself an eternal servant of the Supreme Lord. One must understand his constitutional position and the constitutional position of the Supreme Lord as well. Both have the same spiritual identity. Maintaining oneself as a servant of the Supreme Lord, one should avoid rebirth in this material world. If one keeps himself spiritually fit and thinks of himself as an eternal servant of the Supreme Lord, he will be successful at the time he has to give up the material body.
Spiritually fit.
Text 7. Excuse me?
It's a thing. Spiritual fitness.
Spiritual fitness. Text 7. Actually, Lord Rishabhadeva had no material body, but due to Yogamaya, he considered his body material. And therefore, because he played like an ordinary human being, he gave up the mentality of identifying with it. Following this principle, he began to wander all over the world. While traveling, he came to the province of Karnataka in South India and passed through Konka, Venka, Benka, and Kutaka.
What's the province called?
Excuse me? Konka.
Province.
Karnataka. He came to the province of Karnataka, that's Karnataka, in South India and passed through Kanka, Venka, and Kutaka. He had no plan to travel in this way, but he arrived near Kutakachala and entered a forest there. He placed stones within his mouth and began to wander through the forest, naked, and with his hair disheveled like a madman. Text 8. While he was wandering about, a wild forest fire began. This fire was caused by the friction of bamboos which were being blown by the wind. In that fire, the entire forest near Kutakachala and the body of Lord Rishabhadeva were burnt to ashes. Purport. Such a forest fire can burn the external bodies of animals, but Lord Rishabhadeva was not burned, although he apparently seemed so. Lord Rishabhadeva is the super soul of all living entities within the forest, and his soul is never burned by fire. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Adayo Yam, the soul is never burned by fire. Due to Lord Rishabhadeva's presence, all the animals in the forest were also liberated from material engagements. Text 9. Shukadev Goswami continued speaking to Maharaj Parikshit. My dear king, the king of Kanka, Venka, and Kutaka, whose name was Arhat, heard of the activities of Rishabhadeva and, imitating Rishabhadeva's principles, introduced a new system of religion. Taking advantage of Kali Yuga, the age of sinful activity, King Arhat, being bewildered, gave up the Vedic principles, which are free from risk, and concocted a new system of religion opposed to the Vedas. That was the beginning of the Jain Dharma. Many other so-called religions followed this atheistic system. Purport. When Lord Sri Krishna was present on this planet, a person named Paundraka imitated the four-handed Narayana and declared himself the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He desired to compete with Krishna. Similarly, during the time of Lord Rishabhadev, the king of Kanka and Venka acted like a Paramahamsa and imitated Lord Rishabhadeva. He introduced a system of religion and took advantage of the fallen condition of the people of this age of Kali. It is said in the Vedic literatures that people in this age will be more inclined to accept anyone as the Supreme Lord and accept any religious system opposed to Vedic principles. The people in this age are described as Mandak, Sumanda, Mandayaha. Generally, they have no spiritual culture and therefore they are very fallen. Due to this, they will accept any religious system. Due to their misfortune, they forget the Vedic principles. Following non-Vedic principles in this age, they think themselves the Supreme Lord and thus spread the cult of atheism all over the world. Text 10. People who are the lowest among men and bewildered by the illusory energy of the Supreme Lord will give up the original Varnashrama Dharma and its rules and regulations. They will abandon bathing 3 times daily and worshipping the Lord. Abandoning cleanliness and neglecting the Supreme Lord, they will accept nonsensical principles. Not regularly bathing or washing their mouths regularly, they will always remain unclean and they will pluck out their hair. Following a concocted religion, they will flourish. During this age of Kali, people are more inclined to irreligious systems. Consequently, these people will naturally deride Vedic authority, the followers of Vedic authority, the Brahmanas, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the devotees. Purport. Presently, the hippies in the Western countries fit this description. They are irresponsible and unregulated. They do not bathe, and they deride standard Vedic knowledge. They concoct new lifestyles and religions. There are many hippie groups at the present moment, but they are all originated from King Arhat, who imitated the activities of Lord Rishabhadeva, who was situated on the Paramahansa stage. King Arhat did not care for the fact that although Lord Rishabhadeva acted like a madman, his stool and urine were nonetheless aromatic, so much so that they nicely scented the countryside for miles around. The followers of King Arhat went under the name Jains, and they were later followed by many others, particularly by the hippies, who are more or less offshoots of Mayavad philosophy, because they think themselves the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such people do not respect the real followers of Vedic principles, the ideal Brahmanas, nor do they have respect for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Brahman. Due to the influence of this age of Kali, they are apt to concoct false religious systems.
Text 11. Low-class people, due to their gross ignorance, introduce a system of religion that deviates from the Vedic principles. Following their own mental concoctions, they automatically fall down into the darkest regions of existence. In this connection, one may see Bhagavad Gita, chapter 16, where there is a description of the downfall of the Asuras, 16:16 and 16:23. In this age of Kali, people are overwhelmed by the modes of passion and ignorance. Lord Rishabhadeva incarnated himself to deliver them from the clutches of Maya. Purport. The symptoms of Kali Yuga are predicted in the 12th canto, 3rd chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. Lavanyam Keshadharanam. It is predicted how fallen souls will behave. They will keep their hair long and consider themselves very beautiful, or they will pluck out their hair as the Jains do. They will keep themselves unclean and will not wash their mouths. Jains refer to Lord Rishabhadeva as their original preceptor. If such people are serious followers of Rishabhadeva, they must also take his instructions. In the 5th chapter of this canto, Rishabhadeva gave his 100 sons instructions whereby they could become free from the clutches of Maya. If one actually follows Rishabhadeva, he will certainly be delivered from the clutches of Maya and return home back to Godhead. If one strictly follows the instructions of Rishabhadeva given in the 5th chapter, he will certainly be liberated. Lord Rishabhadeva incarnated specifically to deliver these fallen souls. Text 13. Learned scholars chant about the transcendental qualities of Lord Rishabhadeva in this way. Oh, this earthly planet contains 7 seas and many islands and lands, of which Bharatvarsha is considered the most pious. People of Bharatvarsha are accustomed to glorifying the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his incarnations, as Lord Rishabhadeva and others. All these activities are very auspicious for the welfare of humanity. Purport. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Bharata bhumite hoila manusha janma jar, janma sartha kari karu paru upakaru. As stated in this verse, Bharatavarsha is a most pious land. The followers of Vedic literature understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his different incarnations, and they are privileged to glorify the Lord by following the directions of Vedic literature. After realizing the glories of human life, such people should take up the mission to spread the importance of human life throughout the whole world. This is the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The word Abhipunyam indicates that there are certainly many other pious men throughout the world, but the people of Bharatvarsha are even more pious. Therefore, they are fit to spread Krishna consciousness throughout the world for the benefit of all human society. Srila Madhvacharya also recognizes the land of Bharatvarsha. Visheshad Bharate Punyam. Throughout the world, there is no question of Bhagavat Bhakti or devotional service, but the people of Bharatvarsha can easily understand the devotional service of the Lord. Thus, every inhabitant of Bharatvarsha can perfect his life by discharging Bhagavat Bhakti and then preaching this cult throughout the world for the benefit of everyone. Text 14. Oh, what shall I say of the dynasty of Priyavrata, which is pure and very much celebrated? In that dynasty, the Supreme Person, the original personality of Godhead, descended as an incarnation and executed religious principles that could free one from the results of fruit of activity. Purport. There are many dynasties in human society where the Supreme Lord descends as an incarnation. Lord Krishna appeared in the Yadu dynasty, and Lord Ramachandra appeared in the Ikshvaku or Raghu dynasty. Similarly, Lord Rishabhadeva appeared in the dynasty of King Priyavrata. All these dynasties are very famous, and of them, the dynasty of Priyavrata is most famous. Text 15. Who is that mystic yogi who can follow the examples of Lord Rishabhadeva even within his mind? Lord Rishabhadeva rejected all kinds of yogic perfection, even other yogis hanker to attain. Who is that yogi who can compare to Lord Rishabhadeva? Purport. Generally, yogis desire the yogic perfections of Anima, Laghima, Mahima, Prakamya, Prapti, Ishvata, Ishitva, Vashitva, and Kamavasayita. Lord Rishabhadeva, however, never aspired for all these material things. Such siddhis, perfections, are presented by the illusory energy of the Lord. The real purpose of the yoga system is to achieve the favor and shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But this purpose is covered by the illusory energy of Yoga Maya. So-called yogis are therefore allured by the superficial material perfections of Anima, Laghima, Prapti, and so forth. Consequently, ordinary yogis cannot compare to Lord Rishabhadeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Text 16. Shukadeva Goswami continued, Lord Rishabhadeva is the master of all Vedic knowledge, human beings, demigods, cows, and brahmanas. I have already explained his pure transcendental activities, which will vanquish the sinful activities of all living entities. This narration of Lord Rishabhadeva's pastimes is the reservoir of all auspicious things. Whoever attentively hears or speaks of them, following in the footsteps of the Acharyas, will certainly attain unalloyed devotional service at the lotus feet of Lord Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. The teachings of Lord Rishabhadeva are for the people of all yugas, Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and especially Kali Yuga. These instructions are so powerful that even in this age of Kali, one can attain perfection simply by explaining the instructions, following in the footsteps of the Acharyas, or listening to the instructions with great attention. If one does so, one can attain the platform of pure devotional service to the Lord, Vasudeva. The pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotees are recorded in Srimad Bhagavatam, so that those who recite these pastimes and listen to them will become purified. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. As a matter of principle, devotees should read, speak, and hear Srimad Bhagavatam persistently. I will read that again. As a matter of principle, devotees should read, hear, speak, and devotees should read, speak, and hear Srimad Bhagavatam persistently 24 hours daily, if possible.
Let's step it up here.
And at least 5 hours a day. That is the recommendation of, no, that was not in the text, sorry. There was a little edit there. That is the recommendation of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Kirtaniyak Sarahari. One should either chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra or read Srimad Bhagavatam, and thereby try to understand the characteristics and instructions of the Supreme Lord, who appeared as Lord Rishabhadeva, Lord Kapila, and Lord Krishna. In this way, one can become fully aware of the transcendental nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, one who knows the transcendental nature of the Lord's birth and activities attains liberation from material bondage and returns to Godhead. Text 17. Devotees always bathe themselves in devotional service in order to be relieved from the various tribulations of material existence. By doing this, the devotees enjoy supreme bliss, and liberation personified comes to serve them. Nonetheless, they do not accept that service, even if it is offered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself. For the devotees, liberation, mukti, is very unimportant, because having attained the Lord's transcendental loving service, they have attained everything desirable and have transcended all material desires. Purport. Devotional service under the Lord is the highest attainment for anyone desiring liberation from the tribulations of material existence. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Yam labdva chaparam labam manyate nadikam tataha. Gaining this, one thinks there is no greater gain. When one attains the service of the Lord, which is non-different from the Lord, one does not desire anything material. Mukti means relief from material existence. Bilvamangal Thakur says, Mukti mukunjilanjali, mukulilanjita, excuse me, I'll get it, I gotta get it right. Mukti mukun lichanjali sevate sman. Mukti mukul lichanjali sevate sme. Sorry. For a devotee, mukti is not a very great achievement. Mukti means being situated in one's constitutional position. The constitutional position of every living being is that of the Lord's servant. Therefore, when a living entity is engaged in the Lord's loving service, he has already attained mukti. Consequently, a devotee does not aspire for mukti, even if it is offered by the Supreme Lord Himself. Text 18. Shukadeva Goswami continued, My dear king, the Supreme Person, Mukunda, is actually the maintainer of all the members of the Pandava and Yadu dynasties. He is your spiritual master, worshipable deity, friend, and the director of your activities. To say nothing of this, he sometimes serves your family as a messenger or servant. This means he worked just as ordinary servants do. Those engaged in getting the Lord's favor attain liberation from the Lord very easily, but he does not very easily give the opportunity to render direct service unto him. Purport. While instructing Maharaj Parikshit, Shukadeva Goswami thought it wise to encourage the king, because the king might be thinking of the glorious position of various royal dynasties. Especially glorious is the dynasty of Priyavrata, in which the Supreme Lord Vrishabhadeva incarnated. Similarly, the family of Uttanapada Maharaj, the family of Maharaj Dhruva, is also glorious due to King Prithu's taking birth in it. The dynasty of Maharaj Raghu is glorified because Lord Ramachandra appeared in that family. As far as the Yadu and Kuru dynasties are concerned, they existed simultaneously. But of the two, the Yadu dynasty was more glorious due to the appearance of Lord Krishna. Maharaj Parikshit might have been thinking that the Kuru dynasty was not as fortunate as the others, because the Supreme Lord did not appear in that family, neither as Krishna, Lord Ramachandra, Lord Vrishabhadeva, or Maharaj Prithu. Therefore, Parikshit Maharaj was encouraged by Shukadeva Goswami in this particular verse. The Kuru dynasty may be considered more glorious due to the presence of devotees like the 5 Pandavas, who rendered unalloyed devotional service. Although Lord Krishna did not appear in the Kuru dynasty, he was so obligated to the Pandavas' devotional service that he acted as a maintainer of the family and spiritual master of the Pandavas. Although he took birth in the Yadudin dynasty, Lord Krishna was more affectionate to the Pandavas. By his actions, Lord Krishna proved that he was more inclined to the Kuru dynasty than the Yadu dynasty. Indeed, Lord Krishna, indebted to the Pandavas' devotional service, sometimes acted as their messenger, and he guided them through many dangerous situations. Therefore, Maharaj Parikshit should not have been saddened because Lord Krishna did not appear in his family. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is always inclined toward his pure devotees, and by his action it is clear that liberation is not very important for the devotees. Lord Krishna easily gives one liberation, but he does not so easily give one the facility to become a devotee. Muktim didati kadichit smat nabhakti yogam. Directly or indirectly, it is proved that bhakti yoga is the basis for the supreme relationship with the Supreme Lord. It is far superior to liberation. For a pure devotee of the Lord, mukti is automatically attained. Text 19. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Rishabhadev, was fully aware of his true identity. Therefore, he was self-sufficient, and he did not desire external gratification. There was no need for him to aspire for success, since he was complete in himself. Those who unnecessarily engage in bodily conceptions and create an atmosphere of materialism are always ignorant of their real self-interest. Out of his causeless mercy, Lord Rishabhadeva taught the self's real identity and the goal of life. We therefore offer our respectful obeisances unto the Lord, who appeared as Lord Rishabhadeva. Purport. This is the summary of this chapter, in which the activities of Lord Rishabhadeva are described. Being the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, Lord Rishabhadeva is complete in himself. We living entities, as parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, should follow the instructions of Lord Rishabhadeva and become self-sufficient. We should not create unnecessary demands due to the bodily conception. When one is self-realized, he is sufficiently satisfied due to being situated in his original spiritual position. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Brahmabhutak prasanatma nashochati nakankshati. This is the goal of all living entities. Even though one may be situated within this material world, he can become fully satisfied and devoid of hankering and lamentation simply by following the instructions of the Lord as set forth in Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam. Satisfaction through self-realization is called Sarupananda. The conditioned soul, eternally sleeping in darkness, does not understand his self-interest. He simply tries to become... The conditioned soul, eternally sleeping in darkness, does not understand his self-interest. He simply tries to become happy by making material adjustments. But this is impossible. It is therefore said in Srimad Bhagavatam, Nate vidu svarkadakim hi Vishnu. Due to gross ignorance, the conditioned soul does not know that its real self-interest is to take shelter at the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. To try to become happy by adjusting the material atmosphere is a useless endeavor. Indeed, it is impossible. By his personal behavior and instructions, Lord Rishabhadeva enlightened the conditioned soul and showed him how to become self-sufficient in his spiritual identity. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 5th canto, 6th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Activities of Lord Rishabhadeva.
And that brings us to the cow break. Please come back at exactly 5 minutes to the hour. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Formerly, this planet was known as Ajanabha Varsha, but since Maharaj Bharat's reign, it has become known as Bharatvarsha. Purport: this planet was formerly known as Ajanabha because the reign of King Nabi. Because of the reign of King Nabi. After Bharat Maharaj ruled the planet, it became celebrated as Bharatvarsha. Maharaj Bharat was a very learned and experienced king on this earth. He perfectly ruled the citizens, being himself engaged in his own respective duties. Maharaj Bharat was as affectionate in his own respective duties. Maharaj Bharat was a very learned and experienced king on this earth. He perfectly ruled the citizens, being himself engaged in his own respective duties. Maharaj Bharat was as affectionate to the citizens as his father and grandfather had been. Keeping them engaged in their occupational duties, he ruled the earth. Purport: it is most important that the chief executive rule the citizens by keeping them fully engaged in their respective occupational duties. Some of the citizens were Brahmanas, some were Kshatriyas, and some were Vaishyas and Shudras. It is the duty of the government to see that the citizens act according to these material divisions for their spiritual advancement. No one should remain unemployed or unoccupied in any way. One must work as a Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra on the material path. And on the spiritual path, everyone should act as a brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, or sannyasi. Although formally the government was a monarchy, all the kings were very affectionate toward the citizens, and they strictly kept them engaged in their respective duties. Therefore, society was very smoothly conducted. 5. With great faith, King Bharat performed various kinds of sacrifice. He performed the sacrifices known as Agnihotra, Darsha, Purnamasa, Chaturmasya, Pashu Yagya, wherein a horse is sacrificed, and Soma Yagya, wherein a kind of beverage is offered. Sometimes these sacrifices were performed completely and sometimes partially. In any case, in all the sacrifices, the regulations of the Chaturhotra were strictly followed. In this way, Bharat Maharaj worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport: animals like hogs and cows were offered in sacrifice. Animals like hogs and cows were offered in what?
Horses and cows.
That's what this says, the hogs.
You corrected.
But you can't change things.
Hog sacrifice.
You can't change anything. Animals like horses and cows were offered in sacrifice to test the proper execution of the sacrifice. Otherwise, there was no purpose in killing the animal. Actually, the animal was offered in the sacrificial fire to get a rejuvenated life.
In Bali, they do hogs.
Where? Bali.
The Hindus, yeah.
Yeah.
In the temple.
Well, I doubt that that was happening in Bharat's time.
System.
Generally, an old animal was sacrificed in the fire, and it would come out again in a youthful body. Some of the rituals, however, did not require animal sacrifice. In the present age, animal sacrifices are forbidden. As stated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Ashvamedham Gavalambham Sanyasam Palapaitrakam Devarena Sutotpatim Kalo Pancha Vivarjayed. In this age of Kali, 5 acts are forbidden: the offering of a horse in sacrifice, the offering of a cow in sacrifice, the acceptance of the order of sannyas, the offering of oblations of flesh to the forefathers, and a man's begetting children in his brother's wife. What to speak of sacrificing a hog? Such sacrifices are impossible in this age due to the scarcity of expert brahmanas and ritvija who are able to take the responsibility. In the absence of these, the Sankirtan Yagya is recommended. Jagnai Sankirtana Prayera Yajantihu Sumeda Saha. After all, sacrifices are executed to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Jagnartat Kamana. Such activities should be carried out for the Supreme Lord's pleasure. In this age of Kali, the Supreme Lord, in his incarnation of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, should be worshipped with his associates by performance of Sankirtan Yagya, the congregational chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. This process is accepted by intelligent men. Jagnai Sankirtana Prayera Yajantihi Sumedasaha. The word Sumedasaha refers to intelligent men who possess very good brain substances.
Very good. Very good principle.
Okay, text 6. After performing the preliminaries of various sacrifices, Maharaj Bharat offered the results in the name of religion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. In other words, he performed all the yajnas for the satisfaction of Lord Vasudeva, Krishna. Maharaj Bharat thought that since the demigods were different parts of Vasudeva's body, he controls those who are explained in the Vedic mantras. By thinking in this way, Maharaj Bharat was freed from all material contamination, such as attachment, lust, and greed. When the priests were about to offer the sacrificial ingredients into the fire, Maharaj Bharat expertly understood how the offering made to the different demigods was simply an offering to the different limbs of the Lord. For instance, Indra is the arm of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Surya, the sun, is his eye. Thus Maharaj Bharat considered that the oblations offered to different demigods were actually offered unto the different limbs of Lord Vasudeva. Purport: the Supreme Personality of Godhead says that as long as one does not develop the pure devotional service of Shravanam Kirtanam, hearing and chanting, one must carry out his prescribed duties. Since Bharat Maharaj was a great devotee, one may ask why he performed so many sacrifices that are actually meant for karmis. The fact is that he was simply following the orders of Vasudeva. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Sarvadharman parijajya mamekam sharanam praja. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. Whatever we do, we should constantly remember Vasudeva. People are generally addicted to offering obeisances to various demigods, but Bharat Maharaj simply wanted to please Lord Vasudeva. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Bhuktaram Jagyatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. A yajna may be carried out to satisfy a particular demigod, but when the yajna is offered to the yajna Purusha, Narayana, the demigods are satisfied. The purpose of performing different yajnas to satisfy the Supreme is to satisfy the Supreme Lord. One may perform them in the name of different demigods or directly. If we directly offer oblations to the personality of Godhead, the demigods are automatically satisfied. If we water the root of a tree, the branches, twigs, fruits, and flowers are automatically satisfied. When one offers sacrifices to different demigods, one should remember that the demigods are parts and parts of the body of the Supreme. If we worship the hand of a person, we intend to satisfy the person himself. If we massage a person's legs, we do not really serve the legs, but the person who possesses the legs. All the demigods are different parts of the Lord, and if we offer service to them, we actually serve the Lord himself. Demigod worship is mentioned in the Brahma Samhita, but actually the shlokas advocate worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For instance, worship of the goddess Durga is mentioned this way in the Brahma Samhita. Shishti striti pralaya sadhana shaktareka chaye vayasya bhuvanani vivarti Durga ichchana rupam apiyas chatishnate sa govindamari purusham tamaham bhajami. Following the orders of Sri Krishna, the goddess Durga creates, maintains, and annihilates. Sri Krishna also confirms this statement in Bhagavad Gita. Maya jakshina prakriti suyase sacharacharam. This material nature is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, and it is producing all moving and unmoving beings. We should worship the demigods in that spirit. Because the goddess Durga satisfies Krishna, we should therefore offer respect to goddess Durga. Because Lord Shiva is nothing but Krishna's functional body, we should therefore offer respect to Lord Shiva. Similarly, we should offer respects to Brahma, Agni, and Surya. There are many offerings to different demigods, and one should always remember that these offerings are usually meant to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bharat Maharaj did not aspire to receive some benediction from demigods. His aim was to please the Supreme Lord. In the Mahabharata, among the 1,000 names of Vishnu, it is said, Yagya Bhug Yagya Krit Yagya. The enjoyer of Yagya, the performer of Yagya, and Yagya itself are the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is the performer of everything, but out of ignorance, the living entity thinks that he is the actor. As long as we think we are the actors, we bring about karma bandha, bondage to activity. If we act for Yagya, for Krishna, there is no karma bandha. Yagyar tat kamanon yatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work binds one to this material world. Following the instructions of Bharat Maharaj, we should act not for our personal satisfaction, but for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Bhagavad Gita, it is also stated, Ashwadaya hutam datam tapastaptam kritam yat asad it yuchate bharta nachatat kritano iha. Sacrifices, austerities, and charities performed without faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead are non-permanent. Regardless of whatever rituals are performed, they are called asat, non-permanent. They are therefore useless, both in this life and in the next. Kings like Maharaja Ambarisha and many other Rajarshis who were pure devotees of the Lord simply passed their time in the service of the Supreme Lord. When a pure devotee executes some service through the agency of another person, he should not be criticized, for his activities are meant for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. A devotee may have a priest perform some karma kanda, and the priest may not be a pure Vaishnava, but because the devotee wants to please the Supreme Lord, he should not be criticized. The word apurva is very significant. The resultant actions of karma are called apurva. When we act piously or impiously, immediate results do not ensue. We therefore wait for the results, which are called apurva. The results are manifest in the future. Even the smartas accept this apurva. Pure devotees simply act for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the results of their activities are spiritual or permanent. They are not like those of the karmis, which are non-permanent. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 4.23. Gata sangyasya muktasya jnanavastita chetasaha yagyaya charata karma samagram prabhadiyate. The work of a man who is unattached to the modes of material nature and who is fully situated in transcendental knowledge merges entirely into transcendence. A devotee is always free from material contamination. He is fully situated in knowledge, and therefore his sacrifices are intended for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 7. In this way, being purified by ritualistic sacrifices, the heart of Maharaj Bharat was completely uncontaminated. His devotional service unto Vasudeva, Lord Krishna, increased day after day. Lord Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, is the original personality of Godhead manifest as the Supersoul, Paramatma, as well as the impersonal Brahman. Yogis meditate upon the localized Paramatma situated in the heart. Jnanis worship the impersonal Brahman as the supreme absolute truth, and devotees worship Vasudeva, the supreme personality of Godhead, whose transcendental body is described in the Shastras. His body is decorated with the Srivatsa, the Kaustuba jewel, and a flower garland, and his hands hold a conch shell, disc, club, and lotus flower. Devotees like Narada always think of him within their hearts. Purport. Lord Vasudeva, or Lord Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, is the supreme personality of Godhead. He is manifest within the hearts of yogis in his Paramatma feature, and he is worshipped as impersonal Brahman by Jnanis. The Paramatma feature is described in the Shastras as having 4 hands, holding disc, conch shell, lotus flower, and club. As confirmed in the Srimad Bhagavatam 228, Kechit Sudehantar Hridayavacheksha Pradeshanatam Purusham Pajantam Chaturbhajam Kanchadatanga Shanka Gadadaram Dharanaya Smaranti. Paramatma is situated in the hearts of all living beings. He has 4 hands, which hold 4 symbolic weapons. All devotees who think of the Paramatma within the heart worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the temple deity. They also understand the impersonal features of the Lord and his bodily rays, the Brahman effulgence. Text 8. Destiny fixed the time for Maharaj Bharat's enjoyment of material opulence at 1,000 times 10,000 years. 1,000 times 10,000. That's a lot. When that period was finished, he retired from family life and divided the wealth he had received from his forefathers among his sons. He left his paternal home, the reservoir of all opulence, and started for Pulahashrama, which is situated in Hardwar. The Shalagram Shilas are obtainable there. Purport. According to the law of Daya Bhak, when one inherits an estate, he must hand it over to the next generation. Bharat Maharaj did this properly. First, he enjoyed his paternal property for 1,000 times 10,000 years. At the time of his retirement, he divided this property among his sons and left for Pulahashrama. Text 9. At Pulaha Ashrama, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, out of his transcendental affection for his devotees, becomes visible to his devotee, satisfying his devotee's desires. Interesting. It's been written as before as Pulaha. This is why it's so hard to pronounce that way. Now it's got a hyphen in it. Pulaha Ashrama. Could you make a note of that? I want to send that to Dravida, because it may be that this is the right way to do it, because Gopi used to write it like this. The Lord, purport. The Lord always exists in different transcendental forms. As stated in Brahma Samhita, Ramadi Mortishu Galak Niyamena Tishtan Nana Vataram Akarot Bhuvaneshu Kintu Krishna Swayam Sabhabavat Paramak Pumanyo Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. The Lord is situated as himself, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he is accompanied by his expansions like Lord Rama, Baladeva, Sankarsana, Narayana, Mahavishnu, and so forth. The devotees worship all these forms according to their liking, and the Lord, out of his affection, presents himself as Archa Vigraha. He sometimes presents himself personally before the devotee, out of reciprocation or affection. A devotee is always fully surrendered to the loving service of the Lord, and the Lord is visible to the devotee according to the devotee's desires. He may be present in the form of Lord Rama, Lord Krishna, Lord Nrsingadeva, and so on. Such is the exchange of love between the Lord and his devotees. Text 10. In Pulaha Ashrama is the Gandaki river, which is the best of all rivers. The Shalagrama Shila, the marble pebbles, purify all those places. On each and every marble pebble, up and down, circles like navels are visible. Purport. Shalagrama Shila refers to pebbles that appear like stones with circles marked up and down. These are available in the river known as Gandaki Nadi. Wherever the waters of this river flow, the place becomes immediately sanctified.
Text 11. In the gardens of Pulaha Ashrama, Maharaja Bharata lived alone and collected a variety of flowers, twigs, and tulsi leaves. He also collected the water of the Gandaki river, as well as various roots, fruits, and bulbs. With these he offered food to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vasudeva, and worshipping him, he remained satisfied. In this way his heart was completely uncontaminated, and he did not have the least desire for material enjoyment. All material desires vanished. In this steady position, he felt full satisfaction and was situated in devotional service. Purport. Everyone is searching after peace of mind. This is obtainable only when one is completely freed from the desire for material sense gratification and is engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Patram pushpam palam to yam yome bhaktya prayachati. Worship of the Lord is not at all expensive. One can offer the Lord a leaf, a flower, a little fruit, and some water. The Supreme Lord accepts these offerings when they are offered with love and devotion. In this way, one can become freed from material desires. As long as one maintains material desires, he cannot be happy. As long as one engages in devotional service of the Lord, his mind is purified and of all material desires. Then one becomes fully satisfied. Savai pum samparo dharmo yato bhaktir adhokshaje ahaitu kiya pratiyata yayatma suprasidati vasudeve bhagavati bhakti yoga prayojitaha janayatya shivairagyam jnanam chayarahaitukam. The supreme occupation dharma for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted in order to completely satisfy the self. By rendering devotional service unto the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. These are the instructions given in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the supreme Vedic literature. One may not be able to go to the Pulaha Ashrama, but wherever one is, one can happily render devotional service to the Lord by adopting the processes mentioned above. Text 12. That most exalted devotee, Maharaja Bharata, in his way, in this way, engaged constantly in the devotional service of the Lord. Naturally, his love for Vasudeva, Krishna, increased more and more and melted his heart. Consequently, he gradually lost all attachment for regulative duties. The hairs of his body stood on end, and all the ecstatic bodily symptoms were manifest. Tears flowed from his eyes, so much so that he could not see anything. Thus he constantly meditated on the reddish lotus feet of the Lord. At that time his heart, which was like a lake, was filled with water of ecstatic love. When his mind was immersed in that lake, he even forgot the regulative service to the Lord. Purport. When one is actually advanced in ecstatic love for Krishna, 8 transcendental blissful symptoms are manifest in the body. Those are the symptoms of perfection arising from loving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Since Maharaja Bharata was constantly engaged in devotional service, all the symptoms of ecstatic love were manifest in his body. Text 13. Maharaj Bharati appeared very beautiful. He had a wealth of curly hair on his head, which was wet from bathing 3 times daily. He dressed in a deerskin. He worshipped Lord Narayan, whose body was composed of golden effulgence and who resided within the sun. Maharaj Bharati worshipped Lord Narayan by chanting the hymns given in the Rig Veda, and he recited the following verse as the sun rose. Purport. The predominating deity within the sun is Hiranmaya, Lord Narayan. He is worshipped by the Gayatri mantra. Om Bhur Bhuva Saha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi. He is also worshipped by other hymns mentioned in the Rig Veda. For instance, Dhyaya Sada Savrati Mandala Bharati. Within the sun, Lord Narayan is situated and he has a golden hue. 14. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is situated in pure goodness. He illuminates the entire universe and bestows all benediction upon his devotees. The Lord has created this universe from his own spiritual potency. According to his desire, the Lord entered this universe as the Supersoul, and by virtue of his different potencies, he is maintaining all living entities desiring material enjoyment. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Lord, who is the giver of intelligence. Purport. The predominating deity of the sun is another expansion of Narayan, who is illuminating the entire universe. The Lord enters the hearts of all living entities as the Supersoul, and he gives them intelligence and fulfills their material desires. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Sarvasya chaham hridisannivishtaha. I am sitting in everyone's heart. As the Supersoul, the Lord enters the hearts of all living entities. As stated in Brahma Samhita 535, Antantarasta paramanu chayantarastam. He enters the universe and the atom as well. In the Rig Veda, the predominating deity of the sun is worshipped by this mantra. Dhyaya sadasa vritri mandala bhadyavarti narayana sasijasana sanivishtaha. Narayan sits on his lotus flower within the sun. By reciting this mantra, every living entity should take shelter of Narayan just as the sun rises. According to modern scientists, the material world rests on vegetable. What? According to the modern scientists, the material world rests on the sun's effulgence. Due to the sunshine, all planets are rotating and vegetables are growing. We all have information that the moonshine helps vegetables and herbs grow. Actually, Narayan within the sun is maintaining the entire universe. Therefore, Narayan should be worshipped by the Gayatri mantra or the Rig mantra. Om Deya Sada Savriti Mandala Bhadyavarti Narayana Sasijasana Sanvishta Keyuravan Makara Kundalavan Kiriti Hare Hanamaya Vapurjita Shankar Chakra. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 5th canto, 7th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Activities of King Bharata. Bravo! Bravissimo! Okay, we got a reflection. Reflection? Reflect.
I was remembering how
Reflect from the Supreme Sun.
Prabhupada was mentioning that the principle is to recite from the Bhagavatam as much as possible, 24 hours daily if you can. And I was directed to a relevant section of the Bhakti Sandarbha by Jiva Goswami, where he talks about this principle of hearing and chanting. And he says that the devotee, I forget the Anucheta, I have it written down somewhere. He says the devotees, they're always interested in hearing the chanting of other devotees. So if they have the association of other devotees, they'll ask them to hear and chant, and they'll hear from them. And if they don't, then they'll hear their own chanting. And I was thinking about that in terms of our own program of reading the Bhagavatam and Maharaja's program, which he does every day. And it lines up because Jiva Goswami says that it's actually superior to reading is to actually hear it yourself, and superior to that is to hear it from a pure devotee. And then there's a little thing in there too about how the devotees will like.
Amen, brother.
Anyway,
Very good.
Jiva Goswami is on your side.
Other reflections? Yes.
Send me that quote.
Nagar, please. Pass this carrot to yours.
I have a lot of reflections actually, but just that Rishabdev section is just so ecstatic, so much nectar in there, and I really liked how all the insight on the mind there was really helpful.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about that when he was smearing his body with stool. Before it mentioned that it was fragrant, I was thinking that's a really good way to keep people away. And you know, if you're really serious about like not wanting people to be around you, you're going to go to those kind of lengths. And if you're not that serious about that, then you might not do that. You might just close your door, just kind of like, hey, don't come in. But
He sat right, he made his bungee with here right next to a stool field or a place where people could pass.
yeah, so I like that was a good example of how if you are serious about, you know, having your space for your bhajan, you're going to do whatever it takes, you know. I really like that. And I was just wondering, this is a really silly question, I guess a lot of silly questions I have, but one is, why did he put rocks in his mouth?
It's not mentioned there. You want to look and see? Navina?
Maharaja wanted to say something?
So he wouldn't talk nonsense.
I really like the, he traveled everywhere, and wherever he went, people were adverse to him because they misunderstood him. But he wasn't bothered by it. He just saw this is the way of the world. And he just continued
He said that's what the body is for.
on his own course of
Did you ever
action.
get that on Sankirtan? Do you ever have that feeling? Like you develop like a detachment from any kind of aversion and stuff like that?
Well,
Vrindavan, yeah.
it's like you go to a different world, and it's like a world that's peaceful, and then and then after Sankirtan, it's like, bam, I come back to this material world, like, and it's sad.
You get the star for the day for that one.
Do you ever feel like that, Navina? Like it's a testing ground, or like it's a place where you get tested for that kind of thing? Because sometimes people could. It doesn't happen very often, as people think it might. You know, when you go out on Sankirtan, it's pretty rare. At least nowadays it is. I guess when we were kids,
It used to be a lot
people
more.
used to harass us more because they think like, you punks, you know, get out of here.
Well, it happens on different levels. It depends on how we engage, but the challenges come on different levels, and it's up to us to either see it as the way of the world or to put up a front. It's kind of interesting when they do dental surgery. There's these devices that they only drill on hard surface, but if it touches your gums, it won't drill. So if you're not putting up a front, then they just got no
Where'd you get
No
that?
traction.
no leverage. Yes.
That's a nice
So you have to just be like water.
Somebody knows what? Babaji? Baba? Babaji has one more comment.
No. Somebody asked a question on your phone.
I have to finish this meeting, sorry. I'm just kidding.
Somebody asked a question on your phone. I was just gonna say.
Somebody asked a question on the phone?
Yeah.
You
He
sure
sent
about
you a
that?
message.
Okay. It's not on there?
Dan McCready.
That's Divyanga. Hare Krishna Divyanga. Everyone say Haribol to Divyanga.
Haribol!
No question here.
Somebody else.
All right. I can't open it right now because if I do, it'll go right into a Skype conference. Go ahead. Who's next?
I've got something on the stone.
Okay, got something on the stones in the mouth.
Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that this is from 567.
You don't have to.
Maybe. Just as a small child puts anything that he receives in his mouth, Rishabhadev had a stone in his mouth. He was naked. Complete indifference.
What was the reason? I got distracted.
So just like a child puts anything they find in their mouth, so
Yeah.
Rishabhadev just put stones in his mouth.
He was naked.
It's just like, okay.
Because they were there. That's why he put them in his mouth, because they were there.
That makes sense.
There you go. Like a kid. Okay.
Because
Divyanam. Divyanam in the back. Back left.
That's cool. There's not very quick answers that.
Hare Krishna. Yeah.
Just down here.
Okay.
By your heart.
Here?
That's
Okay. Thank you very much. One reflection, Maharaj, I have is similar to that description where it is explained that how King Rishabhadev was acting as a madman. So I was just thinking that it's amazing that how Lord Krishna in his various manifestations, be it in a very opulent manifestation, has always something to teach us, or be it in a condition like how King Rishabhadev or the incarnation of the boar, the Lord actually goes down to such a level to teach us lessons that well, there are two things which I'm seeing. One, obviously, because he's the Supreme Lord, and it is explained that how his stool was also fragrant. So one should not, one should be very careful when somebody comes across this, and these are the symptoms, which are explained. And on the other side, the Lord showing us the true renunciation, that how being in the world, that He's not in the world. I also have a question, Maharaj. That first question is, as in the beginning of this chapter, we heard about Bharati Maharaj, and it is explained that all the eight different kinds of manifestation of ecstasies were there in his body. So am I right in understanding that he was actually at the level of bhava here?
Just on the threshold. I think that comes out a little bit more here.
Okay.
He was just to the threshold, yes.
Okay, because I've heard previously, not sure where it is, but somebody who's at the level of bhav can't really fall down because he was on threshold. No? That's not
During
true.
Kadambini talks about how not necessarily about fall downs, but how there can be an artist, still residual of an artist, all the way up until not even prema.
Past prema, one has prema and sees the Lord face to face, but hasn't engaged in the I'm sorry. Once he's got his form, he's seen the Lord, when he starts actually the service, exchanges, then there's no chance of his form. I hope you're all clear that.
Yes.
So in any case, there's, but you see how he fell down.
Yes.
Of course, there's different explanations to that. When you get to the Priya Bhagavatamrita, Sanatana Goswami says he did it as an example for others to show how to make a comeback, which is also an important thing. And also, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says gives a reference in the 6th canto of Bhagavatam in the story of Ajamil about fall downs. And he mentions that sometimes devotees who are aspiring for a very high level of devotional service take several lifetimes, or take more lifetimes than just one, because their aspiration is so high, and therefore there may be some need for further purification.
Thank you. Sachi had a reflection, Maharaj. She wanted to Sachi to share.
I got you for now. Hold on. Yes.
About the vegetables
Yes.
What about that?
and the sun.
Yeah.
What about that? Okay, she was just explaining that the vegetables are nourished with the moon and the sun. She was just telling me a while ago. She heard that while she was playing.
Yeah. That's pretty interesting. That how nobody thinks of that unless you read the Shastra about how the vegetables are being nourished by the moon and the sun is keeping everyone alive.
For a second there, I thought
Did you have a point over? I'm sorry.
I was saying that for a second there, I thought you were going to read that the universe was resting on the vegetables.
Bhaktisiddhanta says that we should preach Krishna consciousness to all living entities, including within the vegetable tribe.
Hare Krishna. I just like this verse that said, Srila Shukadeva Goswami replied, "My dear king, you have spoken correctly. However, after capturing animals, a cunning hunter does not put faith in them, for they might run away. Similarly, those who are advanced in spiritual life do not put faith in the mind. Indeed, they always remain vigilant and watch the mind's action." So I just like that verse.
It's a very good verse. Okay, Vrindavan, back to you.
So you said that Bharat Maharaj, he fell down because of a deer. So I was thinking, even though a devotee is in a very high level, he can still fall down, due to material conceptions and material attachment. He can still fall down. So it's very tricky.
Yeah, it's tricky.
In spiritual.
It really relates to Nanda's point also. And just that it's interesting in this pastime how he was developing these emotions for the Supreme Personality of Godhead within his heart. His heart was starting to melt. However, when he got attached to the deer, it was an inordinate attachment. It was like more inordinate, more than usual, more than ordinary. Like some people, they get attached to a pet. I mean, some people, if they're really, like, I don't know, neurotic or something like that, their whole life is their pet or something like that. But it's unusual. Most people have pets, they can leave them at home or whatever. But Bharat Maharaj became head over heels for this animal. And it's just an interesting point about how the human level is the best chance that we have to enter into bhakti, because we are so emotive. There's a sense that, bhakti most resembles human activity more than, it's not gyan, and it's not karma, but it's this love. And we have that so much in the human.
I just saw it was he walked by and I was trying to get his attention. Sorry.
In the human form. So it's like it was a transference. So then in the psychological terms, they have this, there's a thing where the psychologist is taking care of a patient, and the thing called transference, I believe it's called. And the symptoms of the patient start showing up in the psychologist, transfer. It just reminds me of this, how his heart was already so open, but then a little deviation, it transferred all that emotion to the deer. So it all relates to that point of being careful, but also that's what we are. We're sentient beings. So sometimes when things happen where, like, say somebody, a loved one dies, and we feel like overwhelmed by emotion, then it's like an opportunity to actually see how deep our feelings really can be for the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
That what you mean by inordinate?
Yeah.
That plays, I felt when I heard it, plays to the idea that he actually did it on purpose. It was so inordinate that it leads itself to that conclusion. He must have, because he was so advanced, he must have possibilities that he did it.
And Prabhupada brings that out on the purports.
Later on?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. It's definitely like he, Maharaj, like Vaisesika said, like the Bhagavatam is there.
I liked also the.
Keep it at your heart.
I like the concept that the animal sacrifices were not necessary, but they were performed to test the yagya and to demonstrate the power of the mantras and everything. And I was thinking about Sankirtan yagya, that each yagya should have produced some result. It should not be just ritual. So why we sing and chant and do this, it's like people may perceive it very well as just ritual. These people just do this. So we need to explain this is yagya, so there should be result. So this understanding about so many features of which we experienced, we witnessed how actually Sankirtan Yagya is like doing miracles in our personal life, in the society, in many other aspects. I mean, like, I can give some examples, but I guess everybody can give thousands. So I was thinking that this is a good point to realize that the Sankirtan Yagya produces visible, tangible results.
Yeah, and the people are like, they're animals in the age of Kali. Mayamrigam Yichitam Vidava says that Karvajana Muni says in the age of Kali, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu runs after the people to give them mercy because they become like animals. And so the sacrifice is on the animal-like population, and then once they're sacrificed, then they're brought back to life. Right? Okay. Any last things? Yes. Sham. Divyam Prabhu said, is Karti 1,000 times the benefit or 10,000? And he wants the reference. Okay, go ahead.
So I was going to ask you a question. So as aspiring devotees or aspiring servants, even if we're already initiated or have been practicing for so many years, what is the proper consciousness to have, or the proper mentality to have if we still have anartas and we still like all these things we've been reading about, like animalistic mentalities and just different struggles of human nature. What's the proper mentality to have in purifying our consciousness further?
Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavatam, Jata Shradam Mankatasu Nirvina Sarvakarmasu Deva Dukapakam Kalams Prityayan Kanishvadem Tobhajetamam Prita Shradalur Drivanishtaya Jushamanam Statankaram Kaman Duko Dharmam Stagayam. This verse talks about the interim period between when we first start and when we come to the perfectional stage, and when he says this person knows that all sense gratification leads to misery. He's awakened his faith in the process of devotional service, hearing and chanting. Jata Shrato Makatasu. His faith in the process. Nirvina Sarvakarmasu. He feels that all fruitive activities lead to misery. He's disgusted with all material activities. Veda Dukapakam Kamams. He knows they lead to misery. And then Prityagi Kanishvara. Ishvara means the supreme control. It also means the power to do something. So Prityagi, he can't give it up even though he knows all these things. So what to do then? So Krishna says, what's the next one? Tadopajeta Mamprita. He said you should go on worshiping me. Tadopajeta Mamprita. Shradalo, you have faith, Shradalo in the process. Drinanishchaya, just remain steady in your practice. Jushamanam Statan Kamam. The third line of the last verse. Dukadarkam. That's the last verse, the second and last. Jushamanam Statan Kamam. Dukadarkam Stakareya. He said you can feel a little bit of remorse, but don't become overwhelmed by it. So you quit the process and think it's not going to happen. So he just, basically what he's saying is, this is natural. So just keep doing the process because you'll come to the perfect stage. And be happy because you're in it.
And I remember something I think you said a while, like maybe a few years ago in Denver. I remember hearing that you said that one of the greatest forms of Maya is discouragement.
Yeah,
so,
one of Maya's greatest weapons.
So I really like your answer, so thank you.
And we're back live.
Pass it forward.
3, 2, 1. Good reflections. Very nice. That last summary is Baba. It was really nice. Babu. 11, 20, 27, 28. Face ID, I had to open it. I'm sorry? It's nice.
summary I gave it others. That's right, right at the end. It was very nice.
Go to Haribol. Go to Haribol.
All right, moving on. We've reached chapter 8 of the 5th canto, a description of the character of Bharat Maharaj. Text 1. Sri Shukadev Goswami continued, My dear king, one day, after finishing his morning duties, evacuating, urinating, and bathing, Maharaj Bharata sat down on the bank of the river Gandaki for a few minutes and began chanting his mantra, beginning with Omkara. Text 2. O king, while Bharat Maharaj was sitting on the bank of that river, a doe, being very thirsty, came there to drink. Text 3. While the doe was drinking with great satisfaction, a lion, which was very close, roared very loud. Have you ever been close to a lion? I mean, really close to a lion roaring? Have you ever been close to a bunch of lions roaring at the same time?
Have you?
Flash Hacker Zoo.
Oh, Flash Hacker, yeah.
1969 or 67, whatever it was. And it was terrifying.
What was this?
It was a zoo where there was 1, 2, 3, 4 lions in cages, like right next to each other, and we came in there, and they all started roaring exactly at the same time, at the top of their lungs. I mean, it would shake your. I mean, it was amazing.
Took sannyas.
It was amazing. No, that. Okay. This was frightful to every living entity, and it was heard by the doe. Text 4. By nature, the doe was always afraid of being killed by others, and it was always looking about suspiciously. When it heard the lion's tumultuous roar, it became very agitated. Looking here and there, with disturbed eyes, the doe, although it had not fully satisfied itself by drinking water, suddenly leaped across the river. Text 5. The doe was pregnant, and when it jumped out of fear, the baby deer fell from its womb into the flowing waters of the river. Purport. There is every chance of a woman's having a miscarriage if she experiences some ecstatic emotion or is frightened. Pregnant women should therefore be spared all these external influences. Text 6.
Gone.
Being separated from its flock, and distressed by its miscarriage, the black doe, having crossed the river, was very much distressed. Indeed, it fell down in a cave and died immediately.
Just tuned into my experiences, the audio is garbled a bit, cannot hear clearly.
Since when?
Just now.
Maybe it's because of the phone ringing.
Hope so. Hope that's it.
Just now only.
Text 7. How's this? Text 7. Oh, the great King Bharat, while sitting on the bank of the river, saw the small deer bereft of its mother floating down the river. Seeing this, he felt great compassion. Like a sincere friend, he lifted the infant deer from the waves and, knowing it to be motherless, brought it to his ashram. Purport. The laws of nature work in subtle ways unknown to us. Maharaj Bharat was a great king, very advanced in devotional service. He had almost reached the point of loving service to the Supreme Lord, but even from that platform, he could fall down under the material platform. In Bhagavad Gita, we are therefore warned, Yammina vyadayanti te purusham purusharshava samaduka sukham dhiram somitat vaya kalpate. O best among men, Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. Spiritual salvation and liberation from material bondage must be worked out with great caution. Otherwise, a little discrepancy will cause one to fall down again into material existence. By studying the activities of Maharaj Bharat, we can learn the art of becoming completely freed from all material attachment. As it will be revealed in later verses, Bharat Maharaj had to accept the body of a deer due to being overly compassionate for this infant deer. We should be compassionate by raising one from the material platform to the spiritual platform. Otherwise, at any moment, our spiritual advancement may be spoiled and we may fall down onto the material platform. Maharaj Bharat's compassion for the deer was the beginning of his fall down into the material world. Text 8. Gradually Maharaj Bharat became very affectionate toward the deer. He began to raise it and maintain it by giving it grass. He was always careful to protect it from the attacks of tigers and other animals. When it itched, he petted it, and in this way he always tried to keep it in a comfortable condition. He sometimes kissed it out of love. Being attached to raising the deer, Maharaj Bharat forgot the rules and regulations for the advancement of spiritual life, and he gradually forgot to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. After a few days, he forgot everything about his spiritual advancement. Purport. From this we can understand how we have to be very cautious in executing our spiritual duties by observing the rules and regulations and regularly chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. If we neglect doing this, we will eventually fall down. We must rise early in the morning, bathe, attend Mangalarati, worship the deities, chant the Hare Krishna mantra, study the Vedic literatures, and follow all the rules prescribed by the acharyas and the spiritual master. If we deviate from this process, we may fall down, even though we may be very highly advanced. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Yagyadana tapak karma natyajam karma eva tat yagyodanam tapaschaiva pavanani namishinam. Acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance are not to be given up, but should be performed. Indeed, sacrifice, charity, and penance purify even the great soul. Even if one is in the renounced order, he should never give up the regulative principles. He should worship the deity and give his time and life to the service of Krishna. He should also continue following the rules and regulations of austerity and penance. These things cannot be given up. One should not think oneself very advanced simply because one has accepted the sannyas order. The activities of Bharat Maharaj should be carefully studied for one's spiritual advancement. 9. The great king Maharaj Bharat began to think, alas, this helpless young deer, by the force of time, an agent of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has now lost its relatives and friends and has taken shelter of me. It does not know anyone but me, and I have become its father, mother, brother, and relatives. This deer is thinking in this way, and it has full faith in me. It does not know anyone but me. Therefore, I should not be envious and think that for the deer my own welfare will be destroyed. I should certainly raise, protect, gratify it, and fondle it. When it has taken shelter with me, how can I neglect it? Even though the deer is disturbing my spiritual life, I realize that a helpless person who has taken shelter cannot be neglected. That would be a great fault. Purport. When a person is advanced in spiritual consciousness or Krishna consciousness, he naturally becomes very sympathetic toward all living entities suffering in the material world. Naturally, such an advanced person thinks of the suffering of the people in general. However, if one does not know of the material sufferings of fallen souls and becomes sympathetic because of bodily comforts, as in the case of Bharati Maharaj, such sympathy or compassion is the cause of one's downfall. If one is actually sympathetic to fallen suffering humanity, he should try to elevate people from material consciousness to spiritual consciousness. As far as the deer was concerned, Bharati Maharaj became very sympathetic, but he forgot that it was impossible for him to elevate a deer to spiritual consciousness, because after all, a deer is but an animal. It was very dangerous for Bharati Maharaj to sacrifice all his regulative principles simply to take care of an animal. The principles enunciated in Bhagavad Gita should be followed. Yam hina vyatayantyete purusham padisharshabha. As far as the material body is concerned, we cannot do anything for anyone. However, by the grace of Krishna, we may raise a person to spiritual consciousness if we ourselves follow the rules and regulations. If we give up our own spiritual activities and simply become concerned with the bodily comforts of others, we fall into a dangerous position. May I give an anecdote?
Please do.
This is really important. You know, when I broke my arm, we went to the surgeon and... Huh?
He broke his arm?
I broke my arm in the end of July, and 3 days later, and I got on a plane and flew down to Houston from Denver, and 2 days later I had an appointment with the surgeon, and I needed surgery. So anyway, I didn't mean to get into that. That's just bodily. Whenever we went to his office, I had 2 doctors with me, Guru Bhakti and Hari Ballabh, and sometimes one Ayurvedic doctor. And we brought garlands, moha flowers, prasadam, for everybody in the office.
That's amazing.
I gave the garland to the doctor as soon as I saw him. And the next time I went, he said that he gave the garland to his wife, and his wife hung it up to dry it as a sacred article. And every single person that I met at a thing, I made them chant Hare Krishna. When they took the staples out of the arm, because they had to have an incision, I was looking in the eye of the person who was doing it, and I was going, she said, "This is going to hurt now. This is going to hurt." And I went, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Yeah. And then afterwards, she looked at me and I said, "Did you notice that didn't hurt?" I said, "Yeah, I noticed. Most people are screaming or something that's going on." I said, "That's because of this mantra. You interested?" She says, "Oh yeah." So then I wrote down the mantra and I got her to chant the whole mantra. And then we gave her this little flower garland that didn't fit over the head, but just sat right there like it was she was like some kind of forest, the goddess. And she went prancing around the office, showing off, and everybody was going, "Oh, you know." And so this happened for like 5 visits. And by the time we left for the last one, first of all, the hospital paid for the whole thing, charity. $60,000. That's America. That's America. One little thing, $60,000. And they all, waved while we were going down the hall. "Okay, Hare Krishna."
Wow.
Anywhere and everywhere you can do that. Anywhere and everywhere.
Krishna Bharati Maharaj ki
Jai. Where are we?
10.
That's you.
No, it's not.
Oh. Even though one is in the renounced order, one who is advanced certainly feels compassion for suffering living entities. One should certainly neglect his own personal interests, although they may be very important, to protect one who has surrendered. Purport. Maya is very strong. In the name of philanthropy, altruism, and communism, people are feeling compassion for suffering humanity throughout the world. Philanthropists and altruists do not realize that it is impossible to improve people's material conditions. Material conditions are already established by the superior administration according to one's karma. They cannot be changed. The only benefit we can render to suffering beings is to try to raise them to spiritual consciousness. Material comforts cannot be increased or decreased. It is therefore said in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.18, Talabhyate dukkhabat anyatak sukham. As far as material happiness is concerned, that comes without effort, just as tribulations come without effort. Material happiness and pain can be attained without endeavor. One should not bother for material activities. If one is at all sympathetic or able to do good to others, he should endeavor to raise people to Krishna consciousness. In this way, everyone advances spiritually by the grace of the Lord. For our instruction, Bharati Maharaj acted in such a way. There it is right there. Huh?
Yeah.
There it is. We should be very careful not to be misled by so-called welfare activities conducted in bodily terms. One should not give up his interest in attaining the favor of the Lord Vishnu at any cost. Generally, people do not know this, or they forget it. Consequently, they sacrifice their original interest, the attainment of Vishnu's favor, and engage in philanthropic activities for bodily comfort.
Very good. Yes, sir.
I wanted to understand this point that it's impossible to improve people's material conditions because our experience seems to indicate that we can. So many people now are doing things to improve their material conditions and they are being successful to something. Is that part of
This isn't saying that. It's not saying don't improve. We should modern. It's not a suggesting that we should be Luddites, which means to not take up any kind of technology. But technology will be there. It's going on in material society anyway. But the devotees shouldn't shift their attention into making that the primary focus. That's all. As far as our involvement with technology and science goes, our system is Ajagara Vritti. That is the snake in the mouse. Snake goes in the hole. After the mouse makes the hole, eats the mouse, and lives in the hole. So we use whatever is there for the service of the Lord, but we don't make that our primary objective. The main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. But we're not anti-science at all.
I thought you were asking a different question.
What's the different question?
Well, it's related anyway, the answer to some extent, but my point is that Prabhupada is categorically saying that you cannot improve people's material conditions, not just through science, but even through knowledge or through anything.
No, what he means is that they're going to improve it, whether you try to do something about it or not. That's what he's actually saying. In other words, you shouldn't necessarily try to improve the material conditions of other people. Rather, you should try to engage them in Krishna consciousness, because they're going to get, what they're going to get due to the laws of nature and karma. Not a penny more or a penny less. Whatever you do.
So if someone comes across some, the object or something of proper work is part of the karma, that's what you said. If someone gets, like some children, they're not born in destitute conditions.
Yeah, they're going to get it whatever they do.
And Prabhupada, when he looked out from Mayapur Chandrodaya Mandir, when we were there in 1975, and he saw there was a lot of Bengali children that were hungry. And he said that nobody should go hungry. He actually wrote this and sent it to all the temples.
Yeah.
Nobody should go hungry within a 20-mile radius of an ISKCON temple. And he ordered that we should always have prasadam to serve everybody in that radius at any time if they want to come, but it was prasadam. So it wasn't, some blind eye to material conditions. Prabhupada saw those things, but not to think that that's the primary purpose of the Krishna consciousness movement.
Pramanam.
What's that?
Pramanam.
Pramanam.
Prabhupada, in the purport to the verse that's quoted, Tasya Viheto Praiteta Kovido.
Can you speak louder, please?
In the purport to the verse that Prabhupada is quoting here, Tasya Viheto Praiteta Kovido. From Bhagavatam 1.5.18.
Careful. It's going to squeak.
Prabhupada's taking the same stance that you can't change anything. But at the end of the purport he says, okay, so he says, no one can get more or less of these things simply by personal endeavors. Even if they are obtained, they can be lost again.
We lost the word.
So, so he says, similarly, everyone has his destined happiness also. No one can get more or less of these things simply by personal endeavors. And then he says, even if they are obtained, they can be lost again. One should not therefore waste time with these flimsy things. One should only endeavor to go back to Godhead. So then he concludes the purport by saying, even if you get them, you could lose it again. So I always took note of that sentence that Prabhupada is saying, like, you can't change anything, you can't change anything, you can't change anything. Even if you do change something, it could be lost again because it's on the material plane.
Yeah.
So it's a kind of, anyway, I don't want to editorialize.
Not at all. I have some more editorializing though, but it's more pramanam from Prabhupada's analogies about this point. So Prabhupada on a walk, I think it's Calcutta, but the devotees on the walk are pointing out to Prabhupada that the government had started a program to get the homeless people off the streets and put them in a projects building. They built them apartments, in other words. And the devotees who lived there knew what was going on, and they said to Prabhupada that although they had been given residences with a roof over their head, that the people had sublet them and then moved back on the street. And Prabhupada then said, this is because that's their karma. And he said, just look at you. And he was walking with Americans. He said, you come here to Calcutta, but you live just like Americans, because that's your karma. You don't live like a Bengali. So wherever you go, that is going to be your mode of life. And I generally see it doesn't change anyway. People who come into the world, they have good parents, education, they have money. No matter what they do, they don't lose it. Like Giriraj Maharaj, he's an aristocrat. He was born into a high family, highly educated, very wealthy, and they offered him $1 million or $2 to quit the Krishna consciousness movement. He said, no thanks, I'd rather sleep on the floor. But he didn't lose it. Throughout his life, he's always had access to whatever he wanted, because that's just who he is.
At the end, he's got this property, his mother, and then he felt some guilty and he made some comment, and his mother said, you are a millionaire and therefore you should live like a millionaire.
So last comment of the day, so better be.
Just more support of this point is I was thinking about the Python man, and he's like pretty good evidence of this principle that you enjoy or suffer not according to your endeavor but according to your destiny. He didn't put any effort in, but he said that sometimes I wander like a ghost, like a naked madman. He said sometimes I sleep on a royal bed, and he's like, it just happens. He's like, he didn't make any endeavor to make it happen, but he would still get all these good and bad material things coming and happening to him. And somebody may endeavor very hard to get those kind of things, and they may never have them happen. But somebody may just be sitting there peacefully, and so many different material arrangements will automatically come. So I think that's kind of the evidence, like that it's not that you can change your material comforts and your material situation in the long run.
Now, not that I'm recommending this, but I could see you doing that. python thing.
If you insist.
No, I said I didn't recommend it. But.
I said if you insist.
Oh, but I said I don't. I don't. Not only don't I insist, I don't recommend it. So we've had a momentous day. We had new guests arrive. Radhika's come all the way from Mayapur. We had Vrindavan come to visit us. He came from Vrindavan. Before that, he came all the way from Chennai, all the way here to spend a day with us. Deliberately came to spend one day with us. So, welcome Vrindavan. New arrivals anymore that I'm forgetting? Oh.
Well, Madhva Mahendra came last night.
Madhva Mahendra. It was a long time ago. That was about 10 chapters ago.
I forgot Prabhu. What was your name? Raghunath Bhatta Prabhu.
Raghunath Bhatta Prabhu is here. Radhe Shyam. And Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Thank you very much, everyone, for engaging in this sacrifice during the Kartik. Does anybody have an answer for Divyanga Prabhu? For any of the pundits? Radhika?
What was the question?
1,000 times benefit? Something he wants some pramanam for. What are the increased benefits for Kartik?
I always said 1,000.
1,000 only. That's all you get. Divyanga Prabhu, 1,000. All you're getting out of Radhika is 1,000. Okay, and he'll give us the pramanam tomorrow for that.
I just want to do like a final answer to my question because I still have a doubt. So it doesn't mean that all these self-improvement courses are so prominent now on the internet and everything. It's just a con because you cannot improve.
No, if you're, I mean, it depends. That's a very broad statement. Self-improvement courses, and just saying all of them. But the point is, it's not that we don't make any endeavor to hold ourselves together, body, mind, and spirit, in any way that we can. If by that logic we could just say, don't take a shower. You don't need to because you're going to end up the same way anyway, so why even bathe? You know, we do these things, but we do them yukta. What is the verse? Yukta hara viharasya, yukta chesasya karmasu, yukta swapna babodasya, yoga bhuvati dukkha. You have to be regulated and you have to remember what the center of it is for, why you're doing it. Otherwise, it's easy to get carried away. Devotees got into all kinds of diets when Prabhupada was present, and then that became the main thing, became the new religion. And so many people have gone to programs like Landmark Forum, and next thing I know, I was getting 10 calls a day saying, you can't make advancement in devotional service unless you join us at Landmark Forum. I mean, I even had people, they started taking MDMA, this drug called ecstasy, and I had a few people call me and say, you can't make advancement in devotional service without taking this drug. And so, you know, this is the tendency of jivas to get off the track and go in the other direction. So you have to always keep the main thing the main thing. Go Premanande, Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo, Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. Vanchakovdurvishcha kripasannabevacha patitanam pavanibhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha natagoti vaishnavindiki jai. And thanks to all our listeners and viewers online. We're so glad you're there. We feel your presence and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Starting up again tomorrow at, what time do we start? 10:45 India Standard Time. We'll see you then. Hare Krishna. Gaur Premanande.
Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, hey, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman.